Hello everybody, Reggie Time here, and we're about to watch a video of a session I did with Martin in the middle of last week. Things haven't gone great with Martin so far. We've had some technical issues where the videos we made didn't work out very well. Martin's had some health issues, which has meant he's missed some sessions and some family things going on, and we just haven't really got going yet. Due to various different circumstances. Martin's volume hasn't been great, so we kind of stalled a little bit, and we're going to be stalling again because Martin's having a major operation this week to hopefully remedy some of the health issues he's been having. So all the very best of luck with that, Martin, if you see this before you go for your operation. And yeah, but I look forward to catching back up with you again when you're better, when you recover from the operation, maybe a few weeks. But yeah, I know you're very, very nervous about it. You're going to be absolutely fine, buddy. Yeah, I look forward to catching up with you whenever it is, buddy, whenever it is. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video with Martin. And when Martin does get back to better health, then we're going to be making videos consistently every week, and we will get Martin moving in the right direction. It's stalled. Well, we haven't really got started yet. Martin's found some small improvements, but nowhere near as many as I would have liked. And that's just because of the inconsistency of our sessions, Martin's low volume, etc. Not blaming Martin for that. There's lots of reasons that have gone into it, but it hasn't gone as well as it could have yet. And it's mostly to do with how sporadic things have been for Martin. So things will get better when he gets better. I guarantee you that. In the meantime, if anybody would like to step into Martin's shoes and make some videos with me for the next few weeks, I'd very much appreciate that. Please do reach out to me. If you're happy to have hands reviewed and come and join me on YouTube for discussion about your hands, please do get in touch, because I'd very much enjoy making this form of video. And yeah, I need a Martin replacement for a few weeks. And if things go well, we can continue doing it. It's not just like you step in for Martin. If you're getting something from it and happy to keep making videos, then fine, we can keep doing that. And I can have two Martins. So yeah, hope you enjoyed the video, everybody. And I look forward to speaking to you again, Martin, whenever it is that you're back to full fitness, mate. Take care, buddy. All the love in the world. And everybody else, enjoy the video. Hello then, fella. So as we were just talking about before we started, we haven't been covering ourselves with glory yet so far, have we, in terms of the volume we've been putting in, the regularity of our sessions. It's due to a few reasons, technical issues, and obviously you've had a couple of times where you've not been too well. But yeah, as we've talked about, that needs to change a little bit. We need to just get more consistent with when we meet and talk. That's on me. And it's not just on me, it's on you as well, of course.
Yeah.
And how often you play. I would say it doesn't matter how many hands you're playing, but it does matter that you play consistently for a few hours a day, at least 5 days a week. Because if you don't, you just you never get into a flow. You just never get into a rhythm. We're talking about new things you want to apply to your game. And if you're not doing it consistently, if you're not playing consistently, 5-6 days a week for 2 or 3 hours a day, over however many sessions that needs to be, could be one long session or a couple of shorter sessions or whatever. You just need to just repetition. You got to put the reps in, because if you don't, it's hard. And that's not to say you only play 6 hours a week, but there will be people watching this video who are hoping to get better at poker, but then only play maybe 2 or 3 times a week, maybe totaling 6-7 hours, and then they sit wondering why don't I get any better at this game? And it's mostly because it's like any other thing that you want to be good at. You have to practice. Yeah, you have to put time into it. You have to practice. You can't just get good at something through sheer willpower. That helps a lot. There's got to be a lot of willpower there, but you've also got to just be out there day in, day out, try to execute the things that you try to change in your game, dealing with the new situations that you're presented with the different ways people react to the new lines that you're taking. Because the way you used to play, you'll be kind of used to how certain players react to certain things you do, and then when you change a lot of things, or you change quite a few things, or you change the way you think, you'll start seeing different reactions from players. And if you don't get used to what those, how population responds to certain new things that you're doing, it's just really, really easy to just feel uncomfortable all the time. and then just revert to your old ways. So
So I
yeah,
think
we
it's a
need to
case of
be
breaking the habit as well, because people pick up bad habits and it's hard to break if you're not constantly trying to change it as well.
yeah,
So with
definitely.
experience as well, it definitely helps.
The best way to like get new things into your game, make them sticky, is for them to work straight away.
Hmm.
Because then you believe in them. You're like, yeah, it's something new to you. You have no trust in it's going to work or not because you've never done it before. And if it doesn't work for a little bit, just through random variance, it's easy to just say that shit and stop doing
Yeah.
it. Whereas if it
Hmm.
works straight away, you think you found a cheat code. Now, neither of those things are true, but sometimes it can depend on how you run with the new things you're trying. If at the start you're trying new things and for whatever reason, it just doesn't work because you run into a certain part of villain's range a few times in a row, it can make you lose faith in that really quickly and revert to type again, which is why it's important to, like, at the start of every session, have a little check sheet, remind yourself of the things you're trying to not do anymore, remind yourself of the things you're trying to replace your old processes with, and then just keep faith in them. If on the off chance that they don't work at first for you, just
In the
keep
long run,
faith
it will
and
definitely pay off.
keep faith in the process rather than um, they're just throwing the baby out with the bathwater and going back to what you used to do. And it's
Hmm.
much easier to do that if you're playing consistently. If you're like
Well,
playing,
like I said, now I've done on myself like a mini schedule, so I can schedule myself to play throughout the day, whereas before I just played in the spare time sort of thing. But now I've
yeah,
put poker at the forefront, apart from the alpha reasons, but poker at the
yeah, of
forefront, so
course,
I've
yeah,
got more time to dedicate myself to poker and obviously get better. And yeah, if you're scheduled and stuff like that, I think it would be a bit easier to get the time to play and fully concentrate on it, sort of thing.
yeah. And I suspect that if you start like winning consistently, you'll
Hmm.
find more time to dedicate to it because you're like, oh, I like this. And you'll find
Hmm.
more time. It's quite hard to dedicate time to poker when there's no end product from it for you. There's nothing, you're getting nothing from it. I imagine if you started winning, say, 200 euros a month, you're like, oh, tell you what, I'll try and find an extra fucking 20% of hours a month.
Hmm. And
So I
make an
can
extra
win. So I can win an
$50.
extra. Yeah, so I can win an extra 40 euros, and then
Hmm.
before you know it, you'll be finding all the fucking time you can imagine to play.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's get on with it and let's see what trouble you got yourself into
Okay,
since we
okay.
last
So
spoke.
it's a pretty new table, only two hands on these. So I'm on the bottom with ace jack offsuit. I've raised it to three big blinds. I've got a three bet body small blind.
Okay, so before we start, what are we thinking? Because we don't know this player, so what are we thinking about him so far?
Um, looks no reads. Seems a pretty smallish three bet.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to get to. He's clearly a recreational player. Well, he's either misclicked, which is very, very unlikely,
Mm-hmm.
or he's clearly like a rec, VIP, fish, whale, whopper, moron, whichever that term you want to use to describe these people. Because this is not what you do when you're three betting.
Mm-hmm. So it's
Um,
quite small.
yeah, so we don't know what this means yet because we've got two hands on him. It could mean he's got pocket aces.
Mm-hmm.
It might mean he's misclicked. It might mean he's got his favourite hand, which, for all we know, might be 5-3 suited. We haven't got a fucking clue.
No.
But the only thing we know so far is unless he's misclicked, he's going to be a fish of some description. Now, again, we don't know what kind of fish yet. Might be super aggro, might be super passive, and he might just be top of range. We've no idea. But we have
Mm-hmm.
to start building reads as quickly as possible. And the first piece of information we have is this guy's probably fucking rubbish. So
So
that so against that read, do you think that is this an always call? Is it a sometimes? I mean, obviously it's a never fold. But what if you'd said instead of just having two hands on this guy, what if you had 200 hands on him, and he'd done this, say, at a frequency of 12%? Because you'll get them quite a lot in this pool. They'll just
mm-hmm.
like min three bet quite a high frequency.
I think
So
that if that was the case, I think I'll four bet.
yeah, that's interesting because in this pool there are so many of these people, and I see regs all the time, just like pretty much calling range against these bets, and like just four betting too much of a narrow range. So I like to say, like the way you said, you think you maybe four bet. Now it would depend on his frequency, of course. We can't just four bet every time.
Mm-hmm.
But once you see these guys doing this with like a relatively high frequency, if their three bet is say greater than say 12% or something like that, or maybe 15% or so. Like a double-digit number over, say, a sample of 200. So say they've had, like, I don't know, 50 chances to 3-bet, and they've taken, I don't know, fucking 9 of them or 8 of them. And then you can start building some 4-bets with a linear range, and this would probably fall into it. So I'm just interested to see what your approach would be. And obviously, if he's got like a really narrow, really small 3-bet, this is say the first time in 50 that he's done it, then you would just continue with call only, but you'd then give that range like a lot more respect. But I think like in these games, you'll see this a lot, this type of 3-bet, and it's easy to just fall into it. No, I'll just call everything, and I'll only 4-bet like the really good stuff. And I think we can actually have some value 4-bets with hands like Ace Jack against this player type, if they're doing it with like a relatively high frequency. I think it's a point worth making, because this pool has got lots of these min 3-bet fish in it, and it's, in my opinion, the regs I observe playing don't 4-bet enough versus it. And I think the correct adjustment to it is, if you think someone's doing it like with not just premiums but other stuff too, then I think the correct adjustment is to just start 4-betting more with like a very linear range. Don't polarize against them, just very linear. If you've got a good hand, just 4-bet it.
How much would he go on a 4-bet?
Well, that would depend on like how much I knew about the player, apart from the fact he's just a fish, and just how shit I thought he was. The shitter I thought he was, the larger I would go. That would be very much on a player-by-player basis. I don't like having like hard and fast rules. This is going to be my size. If this is a guy who say you see people in this pool who do this, and they'll literally do it with like a 40% range. So I'm going to do it like pretty narrow, pretty wide, but with like a lower size. So maybe I'd start 4-betting pocket 8s. Maybe I'd start 4-betting ace 10 suited. Maybe I'd start 4-betting king jack suited. And they do that relatively small to allow them to continue calling with all the shit they're doing it with. If they were only doing it like with a pretty like more narrowish range, because you'll have seen the guys in the bars playing one last night. He was playing 94-41 with a 30% 3-bet, min 3-bet. I was like, right, okay. So he was just getting it like basically. I was ignoring it. I was just thinking, it's like I get a chance to open again almost. So I would do it with I would 4-bet with quite a lot of my opening range. Whereas if I was playing somebody who was playing, say, 50/50 with but they're only 3-betting 5%, I would probably only have like quite a narrow range. It will still be very linear, but then I would just use like a much larger sizing, assuming that they're just in a spot where they're not folding, and they're gonna have like a stronger range to continue against. Whereas this guy last night, he wasn't folding to 4-bets, so he's like, right, okay, well, we're going to 4-bet you smaller, but we're going to do it with a wider range. I think if someone is already 3-betting with a narrow range to begin with, but just choosing a shit size, I think we don't 4-bet them very wide at all. But when we do, we just use a larger size because we don't expect them to fold.
Okay, yeah. So I ain't too sure what I do at this moment. We shall see.
I would default to call for now until I learn more about him.
The flop. So top pair for myself. He bets off pot. At this moment, I think I should raise.
Why?
Because I think I'm an head a lot of the time. It's like king jack, queen jack, 9 jack, something like that.
He's also got aces, kings, and queens.
And
if he's the sort of player, I mean, we don't know yet. This is the point. He could have 3 jacks. He could have aces, kings, queens. He could have pocket. He could have pocket fucking 8s. He could have queen 10 off. We don't know. I don't like raise yet. I don't think we know enough about this guy to want to raise. I mean, if, for example, you raise here, you say we make it anywhere between 55 to 70, and then he does an array of things. He goes all in. What do you do then?
Probably fold.
What if he min raises?
Probably call it.
Yeah. And that's it. What if he just calls and then donks a turn break? There's loads of weird things that can happen. The point I'm trying to get to is we don't know how he's structuring his betting ranges yet. If he's like the sort of fish who's like really quite mergy here, then yeah, I think I like Race. But at the moment, we don't know enough about him to want to raise this hand. And if the reason I asked the question was if you're like not sure how you're going to respond versus his race, and a lot of that is to do with what size he chooses, it's probably not a good idea to race. We're going to be like polarizing our range here in a spot where we just don't need to. We can continue to build the pot quite nicely. If we want to build the pot on later streets versus check, we can. If he keeps betting, then our hand, gets weaker and weaker versus his range. So I think raising here would be an overplay. I mean, he folds, and we're like, right, okay, well, we had the best hand. He doesn't fold, he just calls. We don't know if we've got the best hand or not. And if he 3-bets, we're in a really shitty spot. So yeah, I don't like race just yet because we just don't know enough about this opponent.
Okay,
Against
so
a lot of
best
these
call.
guys, like we've talked in the past about, a lot of these like fish in this pool who just bet like every time they've got a piece of the board. Now we don't know if this is the guy, if this is that guy or not. I mean, like I say, he might be the guy. He might have a 5 here and be betting. He might have a 6 and be betting. He might have a jack and be betting. He might have an over. The point is, we don't know enough about him yet. Now, if this is the guy, if this was against somebody else, who we realised just basically bet every time they had a piece, so they've got like way more of a merged range when they're betting, then yeah, I love race. Then I absolutely love race. We should always fast play against people whose bets,
And smaller bears.
We should strongly consider fast playing against people whose betting ranges are merged as fuck, and against people who have polarized betting ranges. Then we shouldn't really race against them very often. But when we think this is the sort of guy we think is just going to bet and not fold Jack 9, then raising's obviously the best player by a fucking mile. But if this is the sort of player who's going to bet a 5 and fold it, then raising's a disaster. So I would just call for the time being because we just don't know enough about this guy.
Okay. I'm not sure what I'll do. Yeah, I'll do raise it. I think it's quite large as well.
I think this is a mistake on a couple of counts. I think the raise is a mistake because we've no idea if we've got the best hand or not. We don't know enough about this player to know like what his tendencies are. And that raise size is fucking enormous. We've 4x'd in position in a 3-bet pot versus half pot. Now, don't get me wrong, it's a 3-bet pot, but the guy's min 3-bet pre, so it's a bit different. But nevertheless, I think this is a pretty big overplay at this point.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is now we've got
we've
got a major problem because we might still have the best hand. For all we know, this guy's got King Jack, and he's delighted to get his king, but we just don't know. We're in position, so we should be able to control the pot a lot better, and we haven't. We've completely lost control of the pot because we made a poor decision on the flop. I think now, I don't know. I genuinely don't know what I would do here. I think I would probably fold because this guy is 3-bet pre. His C-bet, we've raised, and he's still wanting to go all in. I would just give this guy credit for liking his hand a lot. I don't think this contains any bluffs, or very few bluffs. So if he's not bluffing, do we beat value? Well, yeah, we do beat value. Because he might have Jack 10, Jack King, Jack Queen. But I still think like we don't beat enough value. He's got those like combinations of top pair, but we don't even know if he 3-bets Jack 10 pre, Queen Jack pre, King Jack pre. We know he probably 3-bets aces, kings, and queens pre, so we know he's got them all of the time, but we don't know how often he's got Jack X, and how often, even when he gets raised, how often does he then jam with it rather than call.
I guess he could also have 6s and 5s as well.
He could have 6-5. I mean, if he's a complete... There's just like loads of value we can have for you, some of which we beat, some of which we don't. I think overall, against a play we don't know anything about, I'm just going to give him credit for having a better hand and folding. But we should never have raised this flop. We should have just called and used our position to navigate through the hand a lot better than we have here. This was a bad raise, and to be honest with you, you deserve to be punished for it. And I don't mean that in a nasty way.
No.
But I'm glad this has happened because hopefully it emphasises how important it is to not raise. We've done a pretty mergy raise here against a player we don't know anything about.
Especially on the button as well, in position as well.
Yeah, we just don't need to do this. We can just call and see what happens. Whereas now you put yourself in a bad spot, and yeah, I think your fault's probably correct. But I think that pre-flop you played it how everyone will play it, and the flop, if you don't know anything about a player and how they're constructing their ranges, don't be going 4x raising top pair in a 3-bet pot because it's just too many bad things. They can fold. It's not a bad thing, but we probably misvalue. They can 3-bet like they did there. There's just too many bad things can happen, and not enough good things can happen.
No, so it definitely makes sense now, especially.
So why do you think you raised there? What did you raise for? Was it for value? Was it a bluff? What? Well, obviously it wasn't a bluff.
It was a value. I thought he'd probably just C-bet anything. Well, most things. But I can't see what I was trying to get to call. Bottom of raise.
Yeah, so it's just you raising legitimately, right, I think he's going to call with a worse hand. Was this you raising because, right, I think I've got the best hand and I don't mind just taking the pot down now? Was this you raising to, and if it was, just please say it, is this you raising to see what's going on?
Probably.
What was your motivation for raising?
Probably trying to get him to fold weekends.
King right, Jack, so okay. Why would you want to fold those King Jack and Queen Jack?
I don't know. So I suppose when you say like that, I want him to stay in, wouldn't I?
Of course you do. You absolutely do. You
give him money.
You absolutely want him to stay in. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So basically, you've raised here to make you fold a worse hand for what fear of getting sucked out on for. Because that's like, and I'm glad you've been honest. But that's like the absolute not worst reason to ever raise. I'm raising to make you fold a worse hand.
Mm-hmm. I realised when I said it. Just that makes sense.
Well, I've worked with so many people down the years, and they do it all the time. You're raising because you want to end the hand, right? I like my hand, but I just want to end it now. That's it. I want this hand to be over. I think I've got the best hand, but I just want it to be over. And that's like it's just an emotional decision. There's no good poker logic to it. Just I think I have the best hand. I want to avoid tough decisions down the line, so I'll raise now and end it. And that's not good enough. We when we're playing poker, we need to embrace tough decisions and just try and get more of those decisions correct than our opponents do reciprocally. So because our opponents face as many tough decisions as we do. So if we long term make better decisions than them in those spots, we make money. We can't avoid tough decisions. It's poker. It's going to be tough decisions all the time. We can't just keep avoiding tough spots. We need to embrace them and hope to do better in those spots long term than our opponents do, because they're in tough spots sometimes too. And if they're making more mistakes in tough spots than we are, then long term we're beating them. And you can't just raise to. For me, what you've done here is you've raised now to avoid tough decisions online. You don't want the turn to come a queen or a king or another card and have him bet big again, and then you're like, shit, I don't know where I'm at, I don't know what to do.
So, that is true, I guess. Yeah. So we all when I said it, like he beat the jack, I wanted to stay in anyway. So
the minute you said I wanted to fold the jack, I knew, or I was confident that you didn't really know why you raised, and I suspect. I don't think you've deliberately, consciously said to yourself, I'm going to raise now to avoid a tough decision. This is your subconscious. This is like something inside you trying to protect yourself. Because when you're facing tough decisions and you don't know what to do, that's when you start getting quite emotional and like you lose confidence. So this is like something inside you, be like, I don't want to be in that spot. I don't want to be in a spot later in this hand where I feel lost and I don't know what to do, because that makes me feel bad. So I'm just going to raise now, hopefully take the pot down, and I'd avoid having to make a tough decision later in the hand. That's probably what's going on, and you need to stop doing that.
I know, but I think, like I said earlier, more volume and stuff like that, I'll definitely get rid of the bad habits and know what to do in the future.
You've got to just get used to embracing tough decisions and accepting that even though they make you feel uncomfortable, they're your friend, because you also get to put your opponent in tough positions, and it's your job to make better decisions than they did. I know you've been watching some Carrot stuff lately, and I've been watching a lot of it too. It's really fucking good. He made a good point about like instead of seeing things as like it might not have been exactly in this context, but instead of seeing like decisions as being tough, like oh, I put a lot of money in this pot, and now it's a tough spot because my children aren't there, my money's out there. Never think about it like that. Just think about it. Every time you're in a tough decision, you forget about what's in the middle in terms of like that's half of that's my money or whatever. This is my pot or it should be my pot. Just look at the price you're being laid. Look at the odds you're getting, and just think like this guy's presenting me with another opportunity to invest money. So is this a good investment? Yay or nay? So like if he bets half pot on the river, so I need to be good 25% of the time. Is this a good investment? You know, am I going to get a positive return on this investment? If you think you are, then you make the call. If you think it's a bad investment, you make the fold. And if you always see them as investment opportunities rather than somebody try to steal your share of the pot or somebody try to steal the pot, instead of getting emotional about it, look at the odds you're being laid and right, is this a good use of my money? Do I have a positive return on my investment here? You'll learn to make those decisions a lot easier because it's just too easy to get attached to the pot. I've got top pair, top kicker. This should be my pot. Right, but I'm going to raise to take it now, so this guy can't steal it away from me later. That's kind of what your subconscious thought process has been here. If you're raise folding here, your subconscious thought process has been, I think this is my pot. I don't want this guy to steal it away from me later, so I'm just going to take it now. And that's bad. You know, you let them, if you think it's going to continue being aggressive and that worries you, then just get better at like detaching yourself from like this is my pot or what have you, and just get much better at right, how much is he bet on the turn? Approximately how much equity do I think I have? And does my equity share give me a profitable investment opportunity? They're the kind of ways you need to think about these spots rather than this is my pot or I want this to be my pot.
And try and take it down straight away.
Yeah, so it's every called here, so there's going to be whatever's going to be in the pot instead of there's going to be 88 in the pot or whatever it is, 86 in the pot. And say he bets half pot again on the turn. So we need to like 33%, we need to be right at 25% of the time. And say the turn, a random array of cards, could be anything. Then it's quite a simple decision on the turn. Right, okay, we know more about his range. He's representing a pretty strong hand, but I've got top pair, top kicker still. Do I have enough equity to call this bet? You know, is this, yeah, accept I'm going to lose quite often. When you only need 25% equity to call, that means you can lose around like 30% of the time post rake and still be breaking even. So even if you lose on this instance, your investment is still profitable long term, and you need to be thinking about the long term rather than just in a vacuum. Because if you called down here and lost to pocket queens, you'd be thinking to yourself, versus they went half pot, half pot, half pot, and you went call, and lost to pocket queens, you'd be kicking yourself. But at every point, you've probably had a reasonable, you've had a reasonable investment opportunity with your hand top pair, top kicker, facing half pot bets, probably is never going to fold. And then, sometimes it's going to turn up with King Jack and you're going to think you're a genius and you're going to be really pleased with yourself. When they turn up with pocket queens, you're going to kick yourself and think you made a shit call. Now, they can't both be true. You know, if you're happy when you beat King Jack here versus half, and then you're unhappy when you lose to queens when you go to half, you can't have both, you can't have your cake and eat it.
No.
It's just about, am I getting a good price? Am I being laid a good price? Am I getting a good, opportunity to invest my money? If you're getting a good price and you have top pair, usually you are, because when you get such a good price, it's built in that you can afford to lose a lot, because you're getting such a good return on your investment that when he has got a better hand, it's not costing you all of your profit long term. So yeah, just learn to or try to get better at embracing tough decisions and not doing actions and not making plays on earlier streets that it's your subconscious trying to protect you from the emotional turmoil of tough decisions on later streets, because that's probably what's happened here. You've raised on this flop just to end the hand and avoid tough decisions. Stop doing that. That's bad. That's naughty. We don't do that. We make the play that we think's correct, and if that leads us to a tougher spot later in the hand, tough shit. We have to deal with it.
It's part of the game, isn't it? So it's just. No, I definitely agree.
Okay, let's have a look at the next one then, Chief.
So ace is under the gun. call from small blind. And the big blind. Was that bet big enough or should have gone bigger, do you think?
No, I think 3x is. And we've talked about it before. I mean, standard is 2.5x, isn't it? That's what everyone does these days. But I think when you're playing in pools with loads of like really loose passive opponents, and there's not a lot of 3-betting, I'm just starting to think 3x is better. If you wanted to go 2.5x, I wouldn't care. If you want to use 3x, it's fine. It's really in loose passive games, I think 3x is a better size, maybe even 4x. I really wouldn't worry too much about that for the time being. But when you move up and you start playing tables where there's maybe a couple of more like studied regulars who are 3-betting at a slightly higher frequency than you're used to, maybe then's the time to drop that to 2.5x. But that isn't the environment you're in at the minute, so I wouldn't worry about it. 3x completely fine.
Okay. So 3 players. Small blind bets.
Yeah. Right. So, okay, before you do anything, is this different to the last situation?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how is it different?
So I've got top pair, like that before. I know this guy is pretty fishy. I've seen him play a few times actually, but yeah.
Right, here's where it's different. In the last hand, we faced a min 3-bet pre-flop, and then we faced a c-bet. So he's like narrowed his range a little bit. He's narrowed his range by 3-betting pre, and he's narrowed his range by c-betting. So that's not to say he isn't bluffing and we don't have the best hand, but we're up against a narrower range because certain things have happened that have like narrowed his range, and he's done it twice. He's done 2 things that narrow his range. He's done the 3-bet, then he's done the c-bet. This guy, you know,
just called in c-bet.
Yeah, he's got like a completely unfiltered range, and then now he's donking. So we know he's a bad player, and it's way more likely that he's just like got a merged range here. There's no reason. Like in the last hand, raising was a big mistake. I think in this hand, not raising would be a big mistake.
Okay.
Because his hand hasn't been through any filters at all yet. It's just been right out. He's called pre. But we already suspect he's a bad player. He's not playing a full stack. Yeah, fine. We've only got 4 hands anyway. He's playing 75-0. He's flatted out the small blind. So everything we've seen so far makes us understand this guy's a bad player. Now, yeah, of course, he could be donking a bet. It's super unlikely, you know, but it's shit. There's nothing to say he can't have Queen 7 here, 7-3, whatever. There are certain hands he can have here that are beating us. But there's loads and loads and loads more hands that went way ahead of that, and most crucially, that he's just going to continue against us with. So in the last hand, it wasn't a spot really to raise because of like the previous action, and we didn't know enough about our opponent. Whereas this hand, that when players in this pool just donk out after calling pre, when we've got a strong hand that beats value, so we beat value here, just fast play. A lot of people will say, "Well, just play call only here." I vehemently disagree with that. When bad players donk out, or when bad players are betting, and we've got a strong hand, we should just be like value raising, like almost all of the time. I think it's a pretty big mistake to just call here. But this is very different to the last spot because I'm aware that the last spot I told you not to raise the flop, but we need to get good at, or we need to notice when's the right time to fast play. And when's like not the right. The last time it was not the correct time to fast play. This is absolutely primo. Let's fast play time. Because if this guy's got a queen, and by fuck, he can have a lot of queens. He's not folding it. So just fast play. Yeah. So basically, if you think you're up against a polarized range, this is the best way to put it. If you think you're up against a polarized range, and that means like if you think you're up against someone who's either got a very strong hand or a very bad hand, don't raise. You know, because if they've got a very bad hand, they're going to fold. If they've got a very strong hand, they're very likely that they're just going to 3-bet. That's a bad situation. If you're up against somebody who you think isn't polarized, and this guy isn't, if If you think against somebody who's got a merged range where he might be betting 7x here, he might be betting Queen X, he might be betting a flush draw, he might be betting 6-5. You know, when there's loads and loads of hands in a run that could be betting, and we're ahead of a large part of that range, and we think they're bad enough to continue with worse hands, then we should just fast play. This is the definite fast play spot for me. And then it's just a matter of like, well, okay, what's my size going to be?
Okay. Well, yeah, what size would you go normally around there?
It would depend on how much he bet. It would depend on how strong my hand was. Stronger my. Say if I had a set of queens here, I wouldn't raise as big because we're blocking hands he can call with. We want him to have a queen. So if we had 3 queens, then
to not leave for him to have a queen.
we maybe just need to raise a little bit smaller because we block calls. And we don't want to block his call with aces. We block some of his queen X. That for you can't have it, way less combinations of ace queen, for example. When we have the ace of clubs, there's going to be like less flush draws he can have because we know he can't have the nut flush draw. So I would raise a bit smaller with that. But if I had a set of 3s, I would raise pretty fucking big because we don't block top pair and we don't block draws, which are going to be his most of his continuing range. It's going to play a big pot. Are going to be flush draws and top pair because we block flush draws and we block top pair here a little bit. I would raise a little bit smaller with pocket 3s or with or pocket 7s, something like that. I would raise bigger because we unblock a lot of the calling range. But that probably against this size, against this stack depth, probably just go 3x, like 48, 50, something like that. If I had a set of 3s, I would probably go a lot bigger. I'd probably go maybe like up to 60 something.
I ain't too sure what I do here. What is the wrong thing, but yeah, I don't raise it.
No issue with that.
He calls.
Beautiful. So now at the moment, are you now when he calls, are you like, yep, we've definitely got the best hand here? Or are you a bit worried that shit, he's called, now what?
No, I still think I've definitely got the best. Well, not definitely, but I still think I've got a lot of the best hands.
Yeah, me too. I agree.
I think he's got a queen a lot.
Queen,
I think the
flush draw,
turn
7x. Go on, mate. You're going to say about the turn?
I think the turn's a bit scary. Not scary, but I think he could have 3s as well, but so be it if he does.
I think, you're right. 3x. You know, we can't strip him of anything because he's a fish. But we need a lot of things to have happened here. We need him to have called. We need him to have called in the small blind with a 3 in his range. We need him to have decided to bet call it, and then another 3 needs to come in. I think a 3 is pretty unlikely. Never say never, of course, but I'm not worried about the 3 at all. If he's got a 3, then fucking good for him.
Yeah, so be it.
He's getting the rest of my money because now the SPR is like booking 1.3 or something like that. If he's got a 3, tell you what, mate, delighted for you. Have the rest. I'm not worried about 3 in the slightest.
Not too sure what.
Let's see what he does.
So it's quite small.
So he's now like donking again, but he's donking for a lower percentage of the pot. So what do you think this means about his range here?
I think he's still got a lot of queens, probably 7s. I think we'd have gone larger probably if he had a 3.
Yeah, I think they're all fair assumptions. I think you can have flush draws a fair bit here too. Fish will do this quite a lot. They would donk call the flush, they would donk call the draw, and then they would donk again, trying to control the pot because they don't want to check call larger bet, so just donk. So yeah, so based on bearing in mind that you think he's got a queen a decent amount of the time, maybe a flush draw some of the time. What should our response be here?
Possibly a call. Just to try and get in to bet again on the river, or should I just raise it?
Well, I'm asking you. What do you think?
Oh, I think I should raise it, but I think I'll just call this one. I don't know why.
I agree. We should definitely raise. If he's got a 3, good for him. He's getting the money. If he's got a flush draw, he's not folding. If he's got a queen, he's not folding. The only question left is what size do we go? And do we just set him all in now? He probably. That's a good point. Good point, actually. Good question. What would I do? He's got 40 blinds left behind, hasn't he? And if we call, there's going to be 50 blinds in the pot. Yeah, I think I'm just all in here. Because I think this
Mm-hmm.
guy is just going to call with his Queen X. He's going to,
Or flush draws.
if he doesn't call with a flush draw, it's not a big problem. We've just denied equity. If he does call with it, we're getting value. Yeah, I think I'm just all in against this line. I'm putting him all in, should I say. I think it's probably the highest EV play here. Is just to put the money in. I'm not worried about calling and keeping some of his absolute worst hands in. And at this point, I'm just I want to maximise my value against Queen X. I want to maximise value against flush draws. I want to maximise value against a 7 that might be just fuck you, I call anyway. Yeah, I'm all in.
Okay, I ain't too sure what happens. I'll just call it. Don't know why now.
Never's absolutely delighted with the situation.
I think I called there just to try and get the queens to shove here, maybe, I don't know.
Okay, well, if you think he's got a queen, why don't you just shove and get him to call with the queen?
I don't know. Honestly, don't know.
Well, this is the thing, and that's fine to not know. This is why we're here. But if you think there's a good chance someone's got top pair and they've gone bet, call, then bet again, how likely do you think they're going to fold it?
Not very likely.
Yeah, so there you go. So if you're thinking, he's got a queen here and I want to keep a queen in, and he's already bet called the flop and you think he's got a queen a lot, then yeah, just raise again. Don't be if he'd bet really big there, yeah, by all means just call. But the guy bet really small, and we just want more money going in than that. If we'd have potted it, yeah, fuck it, call. Happy days, yeah, call. Because we're easily just going to get the money in on the river. I mean, we can still easily get the money in now because even by calling, we've still got less than pot left. But yeah, we just erased again. Because we just have super clean value. We're still ahead of flush draws, still ahead of 7x, still ahead of Queen X. The only thing that's really improved is his random 3x at bet called the flop. And most crucially, the player's probably going to be bad enough to just call off with if he's got Queen Jack here, he's just going to call you off. So yeah, just uncomplicated situation.
I thought Rays in there was the best player.
Yeah,
I ain't too sure.
But this is a lot of when you see other people discussing poker or when you watch some people playing and they're they don't like to raise, so just playing calls only here. It's usually because they're playing in tougher pools where people are structuring their bet side, their ranges a lot better. But in this pool, you're going to bump into all kinds of different players. So against a reg here, if a reg's betting into you, you do want to play a lot more call only, far fewer raises, because regs are going to have better ranges for betting with, and they're going to be just going to play better versus raises. They're not going to be as make as many mistakes against raise as a fish is. But when a fish is betting into you, and you can beat a big chunk of their value range, just raise them because
try and get the money in.
Yeah, just raise them because they're just not going to be good enough to fold here. This guy isn't going to fold a queen.
No,
he's not. He's not going to fold a queen. He's not going to fold a flush draw. Yeah, sometimes we're going to run into a better hand. Big deal. Most of the time, we're just going to make the most money by raising. And against these players, don't worry about being balanced. Don't worry about I play call only in position on these. Black. A lot of the stuff you hear people fuck all that, throw it out the window. If you're against a bad player and you've got a strong hand and they're betting into you, don't fuck around. Just raise. Just what is the highest EV play right now for this hand? Not what does my range want to do? Fuck all that shit against bad players. Doesn't matter what your range wants to do. I've got a very good hand. I think this player likes his hand. I think he can call with a lot of hands that are significantly worse. I raise.
Just try and get the money in as soon as possible.
Fast play, strong hands against shit players. Don't fuck around. Just fast play, strong hands against shit players, and against players who you think might be good. Then consider what does my range want to do? You have to think in terms of ranges against bad players, against good players, against shit players. Nah, fuck that. What's the highest EV in a vacuum? What makes me the most money in a vacuum in this spot? And without question, raise on the turn does. So raise is the highest EV play. That's the one I'm going to make.
No, looking back at it, I definitely agree, and I think I should have raised. So I ain't too sure what I called, but
the problem now is we might miss value from a queen.
See, ace has come.
Yeah. Let's see what he does.
He checks.
So what size should we be using here?
Quite, don't know, about half pot-ish.
Why?
Just try and get him a call with a queen. Boy, just checking out, I think he probably is scared of the ace.
What if you had king jack of clubs here? What size would you go then?
I don't know. King jack clubs. Oh yeah, king jack. Don't know, quite small, I guess.
So why would you go small with king jack of clubs? If you're going small with aces here to get called by a queen, why would you then go small with king jack of clubs?
So I'll be losing a lot of the time to his queen.
Yes, that's what I mean. So, like, you wouldn't want to go small here with your bluffs.
Bluffs.
So, like, why would you want to go small with your value?
I don't know.
See, this is like another thing. I don't know if you watched it in Carrot's video. Another thing he talks about is like, I think we talked about it last week on the video that never made it to the airwaves, about don't target hands.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do that. Don't just target random queen X here. You know, because on the turn we were concerned he might have a 3, but now we won't have a 3. You know.
Yeah.
So like I think that just basically you're in a spot where there's less than pot left and you've got the nuts. There's only one size. It's all in. But I was interested to ask you about what size because I thought you might be like, shit. Well, I don't want a queen to fold, so I'm going to go smaller. Yeah, we just go all in here, fella. That's the only size to use. You're fine if you fold a queen, big deal. Again, we want to maximise RV. I'm not sure we had this conversation last week in the video that never made it, but like, it's not frequency that matters. When we're value betting river, we don't worry about how often they call. We don't like want to maximise the amount of times we get called. We want to maximise the amount we win on the times that we get called, and that's an important concept to like get in your head for when value betting rivers. And until recently, I was the same as you. Get the call. Just bet small here, get the call. But like I said, that those Carrot's videos that I watched, where he was like, "The fuck that," you know, just maximise the size of the pot you win when you get called. So if we say we bet 1/3 pot here to get called by a queen, and say he calls with a queen half the time, so we bet 1/3 pot, which would be 70 cents, and he calls 50% of the time, so we get 70 cents times 5, €3.50. That's what that plays works out like over to say like 10, if we bet half pot 10 times, he called half the time, we make €3.50 on that bet. Whereas if we go all in here and he only calls twice, we make €4.40.
Okay.
So you know
in the long run, it's
a key point to take away from this, and it's for anyone watching this video, when you're value betting, like choose sizes that like maximize the amount of money you win when you get called, and like prioritize the size of the pot rather than the frequency of the call. And it's a mistake that I used to make all the time. If I was making that mistake, guaranteed nearly everyone watching this video is making the same mistake. It's like, shit, I don't want to fold a queen here, so I'm going to bet quite small. So they'll target a queen, and then they'll misvalue the time she's got a 3. They'll misvalue the time she's got pocket 7s. Also, they won't bluff as often because they, you know, or if they do bluff and they're using half pot, it's mad size. You know, you want to be able to go all in here with your value, and that therefore means we expect him to fold here maybe 80% of the time when we go all in. But that's true, because then sometimes we're going to have Jack 10 of clubs, and he folds 80% of the time when we go all in, and that's a good thing. If we go all in here, we get to have more bluffs. You know, we're going to have some bluffs sometimes. There's every chance we could have a hand like Jack 10 of clubs, King Jack of clubs, 8, 9 of clubs. And we've got plenty of flush draws here that open from the cutoff. We've got we've got loads of flush draws. Probably got like 6, 7 suited plus, 7, 8 suited plus. Then we've got all the gapped Broadway ones, like the Jack 9s, the 10 8s, the Queen 10s. We've got an infinite amount of flush draws here.
So you keep the same amount sizing for the bluffs and the value.
Yeah, well, again,
keep them the same.
Like when you're bluffing, when you're betting rivers, the your value bet size decides what size you go. Like your bluffs don't drive the size of the bet the value bets do. So like what's my value bet size going to be here? And well, we're not value betting a queen anymore, so we don't have to bet small. When we bet this river for value, we're basically saying I've got at least a 3 and usually a full house. So when our range for betting this river is 3x and full house, we just go big all the time. You know, if just say the river wasn't an ace, say the river was like a random offsuit deuce, then we'd probably want to start having some queen x in our river betting range, and maybe even hands as weak as queen jack, etc. So when all of a sudden our value betting range contains some top pairs on this board texture, then we need to bet a bit smaller. You know, if the river was a deuce and we wanted to bet queen jack suited here or king queen suited here, we'd probably want to use like a smaller size, like I don't know, 2/3 pot, something like that. But when we're saying, you know, our range is trips or better, then we're polarized. So therefore, we just get to use a big size, which means we're allowed to bluff more. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
So when you think about bluffing a river, don't think about what size does my bluff want to go here. Ignore that. Think about, right, what value combinations do I have here? I know I don't have a value hand now because I'm thinking about bluffing. But if I had a value hand here, so to say we did have the 10 jack of clubs, sorry, I'd be looking at this board and thinking, oh, okay, I'm not betting a queen. I'm only betting a 3 or better. I'm betting trips or better. That's my range. Trips or better for value, and then busted flush draws. When your range is just trips or better, it's big size. If I had 10 jack of clubs here and the river was an offsuit deuce, I wouldn't go all in because my value wouldn't want to go all in. So then I'd be thinking, right, okay, what size would I want to value bet here? With, say, if I had queen x, if I had queen jack, and I would be, well, I'd want to bet. I'd want to bet, say, 2/3 pot, 70% pot, something like that. So therefore, that's going to be your bluff size. That doesn't mean to say you've got to bluff all the time. Maybe you don't bluff all your flush draws in that spot. Maybe you only bluff maybe some of your lower flush draws, where you can get into for the higher flush draw. Say, for example, if it was a deuce of diamonds, I'd rather bet, say, 10-9 of clubs here, rather bluff 10-9 of clubs, than bluff, say, a king 10 of clubs, something like that, because we want him to get to the river with king 10 of clubs himself, with king jack of clubs, etc., so he can fold it. So I wouldn't bluff all of my missed flush draws, and the ones I would bluff would be like the lower ones. So I wouldn't bluff all of them, because if our value range hasn't got as many hands in our value range, then our bluff range has to have fewer bluffs in it too. So we can't just bluff all of our missed flush draws. So I would just bluff the smaller ones, because therefore we get a chance of making him fold 2 high cards on a flush draw. If say we were betting 9-8 of clubs here on the flop, and the turn, say we raised 9-8 clubs on the flop, called the turn or whatever. However we've done it, so he can still have things like king 10 of clubs, king jack of clubs, 10 jack of clubs, things like that. I wouldn't want to interfere with the higher flush draws that we can now make fold. So that's, I wouldn't bluff as frequently, and when I did, I would be using my lower flush draw combinations to bluff with.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Yep.
Excellent.
Without going too short.
Yeah, I mean, if you so you're betting 156, right? He's only got 194. Why didn't you just go all in?
I don't know. I was just seeing if he.
I mean, if he's calling that, what difference does it make? Is he going to, if he's got a hand that calls 156, is there any hand that's going to fold if you put the extra 38 cents in? No. Just put the fucking lot in, fella. If you've decided, right, I'm going to bet big, then just bet the lot.
Yeah, I don't know what I've done that for. I think it's just a case of, I don't know.
There we go.
Yeah, queen.
And all the things we said about that hand stand completely true. Against these player types, just don't slow play, fast play. If they're donking and you're beating a hell of a lot of their value range, and obviously you're beating all of their semi-bluffs, just fucking fast play. And I'm glad this hand happened, because hopefully it'll remind you next time you're in this spot, just fucking fast play. These people can have so many. I mean, this is clearly a nonsense. This guy's clearly a whopper. He's called the Queen 6 off from the small blind, and he's gone donk, call, donk, check, call, river on an ace. Just against really bad players. If you have a strong hand and a significant range advantage, don't fuck around. Just fast play.
Just try and get it all
Just
in.
fast play the shit out of it. Doesn't mean to say you got to use big sizes, but just have like pretty high raise frequencies. You don't have to. You don't have to use massive size. You're not trying to blow them out of the pot. Just like they donk half pot, 3x, whatever. You know. So in this spot, I think you donk 16, didn't you? Something. Yes, so just raise to like anywhere, like 50 plus, and then turn. He checks. Right. Okay. Well, I'm going to bet 230, 75% pot. He calls again. Right, and just shoving the river. You know, don't like get overexcited and like make huge raises, huge raise sizes. Just make sure you're raising at a very high frequency. But use normal, but don't get greedy with your sizing.
Just try and fast play it and get it in. Oh.
Right, well, we've got time for about one more because I'm looking at the clock and I've got about 10 or 11 minutes before I need to leave.
Okie dokie. So we've got kings on the big blind. Oh, an empty hand.
Okay, so first of all, before you click anything, what size do we go here?
Then 60.
60, I like 60. What's that? 15 bigs? Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. Could even go bigger because the guy's played 80/27, but 60 is completely fine. I just hope you don't go much smaller than that.
Oh, 56.
I would have gone slightly bigger. It doesn't matter. The main thing is we've got the 3 betting. That's the most important thing. But I expected you to get that in 100% of the time because, you know, we just got kings. You're never going to miss that 3 bet, which is why that the size is more important to talk about. And I would have gone slightly bigger because, just because of like the guy who's raised looks like an absolute whopper.
Yeah, he was.
Whopper
He seemed pretty decent.
Yeah, he might be.
Smith guy.
You know, based on his stats so far, he might be half decent. I would have gone a little bit bigger, but it doesn't matter. You've got the 3 betting. That's the most important thing.
Equals. Recorders.
Oh, that's not good, is it?
No, so I'm a bit unsure what to do on these sort of hands, especially when the ace comes. Is it worth taking a shot sometimes, or just...
When you tell me what you think. What's going through your mind when this happens?
I think he's more than likely got the ace, Smith guy, and he could have anything, to be honest.
So why is Smith more likely to have an ace?
Just seems better player, and
but why
pairs.
But why did he so what ace X does he have that doesn't 3-bet the 80/27 pre and then call to squeeze? So what ace X does he have?
No, you say like that. Probably ace 10 lower, probably.
Would he play ace 10? What ace 10? Ace 10 suited?
Sometimes, well, he would have 3-bet that, wouldn't he?
Yeah, and I very much doubt he's flatting ace 10 off. So I disagree with you strongly here that Nedard Smith is more the most likely player to have an ace is the fucking whopper that opened because he's going to open far. Probably played 80/27. He's probably opening like a hell of a lot of ace X from the cutoff, and then he's not good enough to fold it. So if anyone's got an ace here, it's way more likely to be that guy. And this other guy, this Nedard Smith, is the one that's likely to be like small to medium pocket pair heavy because he's probably going to want to like not 3-bet pocket pairs from the small blind against this guy, but he's probably going to want to try and see a flop with them because I would, you know, I'd want to see a flop against an 80/20. If I had pocket deuces, normally like small blind, just fold versus cut off open. Not against this guy, not in a fucking million. I'm just going to set mine and just like hope the big blind doesn't squeeze. You know, because I just want to get in as many pots as I can with 80/27 with implied odds hands, hopefully hit one and stack him. So I actually think that Nedard Smith's range is quite weak on this board because I don't think he has a lot of like Queen X and Ace X in his range for going call and then call again. So I'm not too worried about him, but I'm very worried about
This
whatever
one.
the fucking hell his name is. It's a tough spot, this, because I think if we bet, it's just way too thin. It's like we're representing a polarized range when we've got like a bang average hand now, and our hand is bang average. You know, it beats some hands, it loses to others. We in a heads up pot, we could probably get away with range betting here because that's just a standard play. A lot of the time, we're going to want to do it. So a heads up pot against a better player. If you range bet kings on this board, I'm like, fine, whatever. It's okay. But against a guy like this, who can just like have so many fucking... I mean, he can have loads of shit hands too, don't get me wrong. But he can have so much... Ace 5 off. Fuck it, I call, mate. You know, that's... I just don't think we ever have a bet here. And it's just check, see what happens. I think betting here would be a very, very big mistake.
So I wasn't too sure what to do in these situations. But now speaking it through like that, it definitely makes sense about this guy not having an ace.
I mean, not to say never, but it's unlikely. You know, the balance of probability is his range is a lot more.
Small pocket pairs.
Small pocket pairs. Maybe stuff like 10 jack suited, 10 9 suited, 8 9s. Like, it's going to be a lot of the implied odds type stuff, like the pocket pairs, the middle suited connector type stuff.
Trying to trap this guy.
You're just trying to make a hand against him so you can stack him.
No, it definitely makes
but
sense.
I think if you bet here, you're making a huge mistake, and it's a mistake that's going to be born out of you just like desperately trying to win the pot. It's going to be a bet that your emotions have made. Oh, I don't like that board, but fuck, I'm going to bet because I just want to take the pot down. That's going to be your reason, and that's as we talked about before. That's a dreadful reason for taking an aggressive action.
He checks. I think I do bet.
Yeah, it's a big mistake, fella. I get that you just range betting, and as we've talked about, it's fine on this board. Usually, 3-bet pot, ace queen 3. We have a big range advantage. Range bet, it's fine. I think in this setup, multi-way with an absolute whopper dopper ding dong, I think it's a huge error.
No, I agree. Looking it back now, I definitely agree and see why I should have played it differently.
Yeah, and this is why like you need to put quite a lot of time into study, like watching the videos that I recommended to you, like loads of like carrot stuff, which I think is probably the best free content on YouTube at the minute by quite some margin. Because he just talks about poker. He's done loads of he's done a couple of series where he's coaching students. I think one's called From Losing to Cruising, the other's From Stalling to Mauling. Then he's got some other ones that are like standalone conceptual stuff. They're all really fucking good, and they will protect you from making errors like this, because this is like a really big error. This is what he would call like a polarization. And when we make this bet, we're meant to be polarized here. We're meant to be polarized to like really weak hands and really strong hands, and we're betting a medium strength hand. So this is what he would call a polarization error, and it's a big mistake. And when you see opponents do it, this is why it's good to, because your opponents make this got a polarization error all the time, which is why it's good to raise against fish, because they make these sort of mistakes all the time. They see top pair, they bet it, and they're betting too many medium strength hands, which is why it's good to raise against them a lot. We don't want to be the guy that's betting too many medium strength hands. You know, when we've got a medium strength hand, we want to be checking a lot, and when we're betting, we want to have really, really good hands, and then bluffs, usually bluffs without decent equity. This is a big mistake.
I agree. I see it now. Going back, I think I need to. I've spoken about this before, but playing, I think I need to think about it more as well.
Yeah, your emotions play way too much. Have too much influence on your betting ranges. Way too much influence on your betting ranges. This is you hoping they both fold.
Yeah, it is.
Well, but we can't even say we're turning kings into a bluff because we know a bet hand ain't going to fold. You just hope they fold everything. You want people to. This is you betting and hoping everyone folds everything. So basically, you're betting, hoping they fold worse, just so you don't face tough decisions later in the hand.
It is.
It's a disaster, but stop doing that immediately. We already talked about that earlier in the video, but I just want to re-emphasize the point at the end of the video. You need to stop doing this as a matter of urgency. And when you're betting, you want to know why am I betting for value? Am I betting as a bluff? If your bet is neither of those things, then usually don't fucking do it. So before you make a bet, ask yourself, am I value betting? if you're not value betting, like here, you couldn't say you were value betting here. So am I bluffing? Well, no, because a better hand isn't going to fold. So therefore, I don't have a bet. And just deal with it. Deal with the fact you don't have a bet, and deal with the fact that when Cub Black, or whatever it's fucking called, deal with that when he bets, you're going to be annoyed. Accept all those things before you do anything. Chill out, right? I don't have a value bet. I don't have a bluff. When I check, this cunt's going to bet a lot, and that's going to piss me off. It's okay to feel all of those things, but it's not okay to take actions to prevent you feeling those things.
No, definitely. I'll definitely work on that throughout the week now.
Yeah, you definitely need to. So let's see what happens. So we bet. He folds. He calls.
4. I think now. I don't know if I'm still ahead or not.
No, well, this hand's fucked already because we've over-repped our hand on the flop. And he's called. It's just this hand's very, very messed up. There's no reason here against this bad player why he can't still have like stuff like Jack Queen suited, King Queen suited that didn't want to 3-bet versus the maniac. So this is why it's difficult. He might have the occasional bit of Ace X. He might have some Queen X. He might have some flush draws. He might be trapping us with a set of fucking 3s. We just have no fucking clue. But what we have done is we've filtered his range twice because we've 3-bet pre, which makes him fold a lot of his range, and we c-bet an ace-high board, which makes him fold a lot more of his pre-flop. His range against the flop, a lot of that folds too. So you know, it's a really shitty spot. We don't have a value bet. We don't have a bluff. It's just a check, and but we butchered the spot on the flop, so it makes it really hard now. Yeah. So what is going on here, Squire?
Honestly, I don't know. I think probably trying to get queens to call if we had queens. Well,
yeah, and again, we're doing that thing that we're not going to do anymore. We're targeting, aren't we? We're targeting exactly queen. We're ignoring the fact that he can have some ace X. We're ignoring the fact we're giving a flush draw a really good price to call. We're ignoring the fact that he can have sets. We're just like, well, my hand here exactly wants to get value from queens, and I don't give a fuck that I'm value owning myself against better, and I don't give a fuck that I'm giving a good price to all these draws. This is you just targeting one very small part of his range and taking an action based on that, ignoring the rest of his range. This is, and I think I know you well enough, that this is really fucking shit, and you know it's really shit looking back at it. And this just tells me you need to do a lot more study, and you need to get let's say watch the video, do the work we do with me, remember the things we've talked about, watch videos, write things down where you're like, yeah, this is what I need to do. I need to do whatever the content creator just said that's better than what I do. Fucking write this down. Have a notepad. Read that notepad before every session.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to start taking notes.
Yeah, you have to,
watching videos and stuff and take it more in.
We've been I know we've had like a bit of a fucking hit and miss coaching session so far for various reasons, but I'm disappointed that you're still doing this. Like this might be the 4th session we've had. This shouldn't be happening anymore. This is you being unable to separate the things that we're talking about from your emotions, because this is absolute dog shit, and you know it is, and you probably knew it was when you were doing it, but you're letting the emotional, and this is maybe the 3rd or 4th time we've had this conversation now, you're letting the emotional side of your brain make your poker decisions for you, and if you can't stop this happening, you're drawing dead on ever being a winning player, because this is such an enormous mistake. And you know when you do it, you know it's a mistake, but you do it anyway. Because you're doing this now, and you're hoping it goes call, and then you can check the river. That's what this is happening for. And also, if you check it, if you bet here, you're trying to buy a check. Whereas if you check back, you're worried he's going to bet, and you're going to be in some spot, and you're not going to know what to do.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, stop it. It's fucking. If you're still doing this next week, you and I are going to fall out, sir.
No, I won't. I'll definitely improve by next week.
So let's see what happens. Yeah, he calls again. And now what do you think?
Probably made his flush. He's suited
well,
connectors.
Here's the thing, like, instead of thinking he's made his flush and try to put him on a hand, the thing about here is like, just click about 1 before our bet goes in. So we only need 20% equity to call here. So we need to call at a pretty high frequency. So the question to ask yourself here is, in general, do do I beat? Sorry, first question to ask, sorry, is how often do I think this player's bluffing? So that's your first question. Do you think he's bluffing here very often?
No.
So if you don't think he's bluffing very often, do you beat any of his value range?
No, not that in there. No.
Maybe you do. It's unlikely.
Oh, Queens.
Yeah, maybe he's just blocking a fucking queen. I think it's very, very, very unlikely. As played here, I just think he's going to turn up with a flush a lot. But we have a king of diamonds, so we do interfere with some of his potential flushes. This is a weird spot because of how we've like filtered his range. We've filtered his range basically to where he does this. He just has flushes a fair bit. But if he did have a flush, would he necessarily go this size?
No.
And his hand's just fucking weird in general. I think I probably fold here, but it's really close because we only have to win 20% of the time to break even. So when we factor rake in, we probably need to win maybe 25% of the time. But yeah, I think it's really, really close here because I don't think he's bluffing, but he doesn't need to be bluffing very often for this to be break even. I think it's very unlikely he's bluffing, but he might be once in a blue moon. Then once in a blue moon, we might beat value. So I think it's really, really close. Really, really close. I think I'd probably fold because I'd lean to overfolding in this spot, but I think call's probably okay because we need to have, if he's bluffing, even just say 5% of the time here, 10% of the time, and then another 10% of the time, he's just like block betting a worse hand, which again, both those things are very unlikely, but both might happen at a very small frequency. Then we have enough to just call. So I think versus this size, we probably have to call, but we're deeply unhappy about the whole situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did get there with the flush, and so it's unfortunate that he got there, but you know. Imagine this hand goes down another way. We check the flop, probably check turn, and then he value bets river, we call, and then we lose. And then that's fine because we only lose a small pot. And we've kept his range really unfiltered. So when he does get to the river, he has more thin value bets. He has more bluffs in his range. So we're just doing better against his range. Whereas this way, we've filtered his range 3 times because we made him call 3 times. And then, so his range, when he gets to the river and bets, he's just going to be like a lot stronger. So yeah, stop this fucking, I raise, or I bet because I want to avoid tough spots, because that's what you've done in 2 of these hands today.
It is.
And then,
in the long way, it's costing money.
And then the one hand that we had value, you didn't raise the turn. You know, the one time where maybe you could really justify like raising or taking aggressive action, you didn't do it. So you're doing things a bit back to front.
No, next week I'll definitely improve, and I'll show you that.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's fine. It's my job. It's my job to do this. I'm not going to be cross with you, you know, but I'm going to be disappointed rather than cross because it's my job to like help you identify these things and change them. But doing 1 hour a week with me isn't going to be enough. You've got to do your own like studying too. You've got to like be reviewing your own hands. You've got to be like consuming some content from other people. The 1 hour a week with me and nothing else. Just playing and then doing 1 hour with me isn't gonna do the job. I'm just part of it. What we're doing here is just part of the equation. Maybe it's only 20, maybe it's 25% or less of it. You've got to do a lot of the hard yards yourself. You can't just be like,
next week.
You can't just be like, oh well, I do this one system with Reg. That's good enough, and things will just improve. Because as we're seeing at the minute, they won't. Because you haven't improved very much since we started. So it's obvious you need to be doing stuff independently of me.
No, definitely. Well, I'm going to take a lot more time to take notes when I'm watching videos as well, and try and ingest it a bit more.
Taking notes when watching videos is really important. Getting the stuff out of it that you need to get out of it, and then reminding yourself before every session, reread your notes, remind yourself about what you're trying to achieve. Remind yourself about the things you've learned, because it's quite easy to just go blank in the middle of a session or forget the things and revert to your old habits. So they watch videos, take notes. Oh, I really like that. I'm going to start doing that more. Or this is a mistake I used to make, and this is giving me a new way to think about it. So just like take notes that are going to remind you of the things you're trying to do when you're playing, that are replacing the old things that you did.
Yeah, because at the moment I'm just watching videos without taking notes.
Yeah.
And I probably just sit my mind, forget about it.
Loads of people do that. I used to do that all the time. Watch videos, and a lot of the time you're watching them as much to be just for entertainment as you are for like education. And why not both? You know, watch them for entertainment, enjoy the content, but when you get some little nuggets of fucking golden advice that you know you can apply to your game, take the note as well.
Yeah, it's definitely worth it, and I think I'll remember it more if I take notes and get to write it down.
Yeah, right, sir. I am running insanely late, so I need to get going.
Okay, sorry to keep you.
No problem, mate. It's been a pleasure. See you next week.
And thank you very much. Take care. Thank you.
Bye, mate.
Bye-bye.